Hi guys, Nick here from Firefly Studios bringing you a special lockdown dev diary. Today we're going to be talking about the 4 main AI lords coming to Stronghold Warlords at launch, playable in skirmish mode and multiplayer, and also featured in the main historical single player campaign. Early on it was pretty clear that with our shift in setting from the battlefields of medieval Europe and the Middle East that we would need a brand new set of characters for you to battle against in the new East Asian setting. Genghis Khan, Fuchfan, Tomi Hideyoshi, and I think I'm pronouncing this right, Fuchfan, were really interesting for us both in terms of their potential for design and art style. These 4 characters will be your main AI opposition in the game, featured in addition to our 8 warlord archetypes, which include things like the dragon warlord, horse and ox. So while the warlords add new gameplays to the series in your ability to take them over, upgrade them and then command them across the battlefields, you can think of the 4 main AI opponents as your classic Stronghold rivals. Think of Genghis and company in the same way that you would think of the Rat in Stronghold, the Caliph in Stronghold Crusader, or Vlad Dracul in what is, at this point an underrated but personal favourite game of mine, Stronghold Legends. Today's video will explore their battlefield prowess, particular quirks and tactics on the battlefield, and get you ready for the kind of strategies you can expect at launch on March 9th. The first character players will encounter in Warlords' 31 mission campaign, the would-be Vietnamese king Fuchfan is all about his agriculture. Running his economy using basic food farms, Fuch will, early on in the match, rely heavily on cheaper to produce units such as spear and blowpipe tribesmen to form his initial armed forces. Eventually, however, he will turn to auxiliary class units like the axemen and light cavalry units, as his economy grows and his ambitions turn to expanding his influence over local warlords.
This warlord is ours now!
You'll know when he's set his sights on your castle by the early skirmishes designed to disrupt the progress of his enemies and soften them up for a full attack later on. Fuchfan is probably the most straightforward AI in Stronghold Warlords. Hailing from a time of early military tactics and territorial expansion in 3rd century BC Vietnam, Fuch offers basic military and economic tactics to help players get a feel for the core gameplay in its rawest form. Training tribesmen, auxiliary axemen, archers and cavalry, Fuch will be slow to start, but eventually lay siege to the player using a fair array of siege weapons that shouldn't be ignored. Opting to ignore the superior siege weapon in forms of catapults, mantlets and hwacha arrow carts, Fuch really isn't bothered about launching 90kg projectiles over 300 meters. His military tactics rely on steadily pressuring the player over the course of a battle, doing so early on in the match and keeping up the pressure in an attempt to distract and overwhelm his enemies.
To me, my warriors! We will win this day!
He does this using fast attack units, ignoring Imperial soldiers due to their slow speed and lack of maneuverability. Fuch is therefore most dangerous at the start of a match. Depending on the difficulty you're playing at, if you can survive his early attacks using troops and allied warlords, you should be able to get your economy to the stage of more advanced armour and weaponry. At this point you will have the tactical advantage, and should be able to amass a force powerful enough to storm his keep.
The oppressors approach! Man the barricades!
In Stronghold Warlords campaign, each AI lord has a unique keep to call their own, and Fuch is no different. Fuch's player keep is the most basic of the 4 main warlords. He supplements this humble abode with plentiful rice, pig and vegetable farms, as well as a few good lord fear factor buildings. So while Fuchfan lacks more advanced resource chains like silk or tea to help boost his popularity, it does mean that the basic needs of his people are taken care of. And honestly, that feels like an achievement in 2021, let alone 300 BC.
Do not lose heart, fellow warriors! We build, and build again!
In summary, what I'm saying is Fuchfan for president in 2024. Come on people. Give him a chance. Founder of the Qin dynasty and the first emperor of a unified China, Qin Shi Huang is slow, methodical and ruthless in his behaviour as an AI lord. His economy develops well over the course of a match, featuring silk production to complement his abundant food farms. And although he uses bread and butter auxiliary units to initially establish an army on the battlefield, his ultimate aim here is to build a powerful force of Imperial class troops to conquer warlords and eventually crush his enemies. Qin is therefore an excellent all-rounder. His castle economy is well balanced between the basic and more advanced units, and while he starts off simple with reliable auxiliary axemen and archers, these are just the foundation of his armed forces. To feed and clothe this growing army, he'll build rice farms, vegetable farms, and later on clothing production to help boost his popularity and offset his use of torture devices, which we'll come to later.
We have no need of the prisoners. Execute them.
Eventually, once his economy has advanced to the stage when he's producing sufficient armor and weapons, Qin will raise his militaristic ambition and move on to training up a more serious army. Imperial warriors and crossbowmen are used to form an army that is capable of dealing high damage up close and at range. With bannermen also in the mix to buff both the melee and ranged attacks of units within their radius, any incoming attack from Qin should be taken seriously.
You will kneel before me.
In terms of siege weaponry, Qin relies heavily on the protection of mantlets for his units, as well as ballista and catapults for blasting away your castle walls. When it comes to his own castle, you can expect ample fortifications, a few protruding walls, many large towers, and defences in the form of huacha platforms and defensive arrow turrets. Unlike Fuchfan, Qin tends to prefer bad lord fear factor buildings. By sacrificing his popularity in return for boosted worker productivity, Qin's economic progress can definitely catch up on you. His torture devices will however come at the cost of troop morale, meaning that if you can match his numbers, you should be able to come out on top in each skirmish. What I'm saying here is please don't vote for Qin in the next election. That would be bad.
What impertinence!
The first great Khan or emperor of the Mongol Empire, it should come as no surprise that Genghis Khan favours a nomadic life and playstyle. Don't be fooled by his humble economy. Genghis, or rather Chenghis, which I believe is closer to the original Mongolian, is an aggressive player. Genghis's village economy is designed around gold generation, a resource required to train his favourite troop type, the horse archer. Yep, no prizes for guessing that one.
The horses are restless.
The swiftness of these units makes them perfect for hit and run attacks on his enemies, of which there will be many during the course of a skirmish match. Unlike Fuchfan, however, Genghis's early attacks are backed up by his formidable siege army. Left unchecked, these forces can grow quickly at the right difficulty level, spelling certain doom even for Stronghold veterans. Early on, he'll train plenty of horse archers, along with auxiliary troops to capture nearby warlords, before later bringing Imperial cavalry, generals and even fire lancers into his ranks, forming a deadly combination. He'll then besiege the player with everything he can muster, throwing mortars, rocket launchers, ballista and trebuchets all at the player.
Rain arrows on their walls!
While using horse archers to harass your economic progress, Genghis himself will build a simple castle with just a few towers. He will, however, protect it with advanced siege defences, including huacha and mangonel platforms, while protecting his archers with hoardings. When it comes to popularity, Genghis offsets his tendency towards negative fear factor buildings with rice, pig farms and clothing resource chains. In terms of votability, I'm going to go ahead and say Genghis would be a strong independent vote, even if he'd also likely subjugate multiple continents once he's actually in power.
All the land will soon be mine!
Tomi Hideyoshi is arguably the most sophisticated of the leaders featured in Stronghold Warlords. His iconic castle design complements a well-developed economy featuring both silk and tea production, giving him an edge over other characters when it comes to peasant popularity. His expert understanding of stealth tactics can catch enemies off guard, while his Sohei warrior monks allow for swift and decisive attacks when needed. A cunning opponent with a tendency to attack suddenly or without warning, either through speed or stealth, Hideyoshi is a force to be reckoned with, and the final lord featured in Warlords' single-player campaign. Using specialised units including ninja, monks and samurai, in addition to a healthy number of archers, Hideyoshi will mix surgical strikes with siege attacks. Covert attacks will take place throughout the course of a match, often aimed at dismantling your granary or stealing a warlord by force from under your nose.
Good work.
Warrior monks meanwhile form the backbone of his main armies, allowing Hideyoshi to dispatch powerful attacks at speed early on in a skirmish game. Later on, his roster of units expands to include not only the aforementioned samurai, but also mantlets, ballista and catapults to take down your castle walls. His cross-shaped castle design is well protected with medium towers, arrow turrets, ballista and huacha platforms, with a few scary fear factor buildings in there to boost his industry, which is offset by his advanced economy. In summary then, Hideyoshi is probably the most conservative option as a leader. You can expect stability, but don't expect any wild changes to your way of life.
I am a simple man. I desire only victory.
So there you have it. I hope that provides some kind of insight into the soldiers, the tactics, and the strategies you can expect from our 4 historical leaders in Stronghold Warlords at launch. We can't wait for you to play their campaign missions, but also to play as them and against them in skirmish mode and online multiplayer from March 9th. If you'd like to find more about the genesis and backstory of these characters, please do check out our History Behind Warlords series here on YouTube. Aaron did a fantastic job bringing the backstories of these characters to life, so if you'd like a primer on the great Khans or great unifiers of these nations, please do check that out before diving into our single player campaign. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a like and wishlist Stronghold Warlords on Steam to find out exactly when the game comes out and be notified of any launch discounts. Thanks for watching from everyone at Firefly Studios, and remember to stay safe, wear a mask, and let us know what you think of Warlords at launch using the official Stronghold Discord server.